Hey, good morning, everyone. Vince Devall with Eagle Homes. I have Brad Brewer on the other line. He's the other balding guy right there. And then we got Adam with A to Z Mortgage Team. Here we are on our now Monday morning podcast. So thank you for joining us. The things we're going to cover today, Brad and I are going to talk about 5 buyer and seller things to do if you're thinking about buying or selling today. And then Adam, I believe, Wida, you on pace for that or?
Yeah, we'll go over WIDA, like grant programs or down payment assistance programs in general.
Yeah, nice. So I'm gonna have Brad go first on the seller side. Some of the top 5 things to do as a seller today. And Brad, I am gonna rudely interrupt as you're going through and ask questions. That's just what I do best.
Sweet. I love that. And just so you know, this is my coffee cup is ironic today. Can anyone guess why this coffee cup is ironic? Or it's
because you got a new dog.
Or it's sarcastic. No, I actually hate Halloween and it's a Halloween coffee mug.
Oh.
Least favorite holiday ever. So anyway, yes, I do have a new puppy. She may get introduced here, but she's staying quiet right now, chewing my shoelaces on my shoes. So this is awesome. Anyway, so I want to go over quickly just 5. If you're thinking about selling, getting ready to start, even the thought of putting your house in the market, what are 5 things you really need to do right now? Doesn't matter the timeline. First one is plan, and let's figure out your timeline. Simple as that, right? Number 2, people tend to think, well, what agent do I want to get involved? Or if you may have an agent in mind. Hey, I tell you, my clients, I recommend, hey, interview a couple agents, see what's out there. We're pretty confident in the services we provide that you'll choose us, but get your agent involved, have them come out to the house and go over some of the thoughts of things that you're going to do. Now, if you're looking to move quickly and you want to bring the agent out and get that house on the market right away, 3, 4, and 5 will definitely help you with that. Number 3.
So hey, Brad. Yeah. Brad, let me ask. So if someone's thinking about, selling their house, do you as an agent, will you go out and do like a quick walkthrough? Because obviously as an agent, you gotta have a good idea of what you're walking into so you can recommend, your pricing structure.
Absolutely. I mean, we should be part of number 1. I could almost call your agent first as number 1, but as soon as you're starting to plan and maybe figure out a timeline of when you're going to sell, call your agent or get an agent or 2 out there to give you an opinion. Little things you want to do to the house, which I'll get to in a minute. But yes, I would do that right away because in my experience, I probably talk clients out of doing more than doing as far as like little household repairs. So it's a good segue. Number 3, 4, and 5 are what I call the 3 C's. And they're really simple ways just to think about as you go through your house, as you prep it for sale. Clean, first one there is just, I don't care how outdated your house is. Doesn't really matter. I've sold houses that were last updated, had the last appliances updated, sometimes into the late 80s, early 90s. That decor obviously isn't today, but the house was super clean. And that translate over to the buyer because the buyer can then envision things that they could then do, like, oh, well, the place is nice, but I'll remodel the kitchen at some point, or I'll remodel this bathroom. They see little projects versus, oh my gosh, it's funny how clean a house is really impacts a buyer's impression. And if you're not a great cleaner, or you don't be afraid to ask your agent. We do have different cleaners we recommend that will come in and do cleans specifically to prep your house for going to market. Because let's face it, we all live in our daily lives, not necessarily, at least not many of us, where our house is what we call show ready. So it's not the worst thing to do. Even if you have a regular cleaning crew come in, getting it that extra spick and span goes a long way. The next one, clear. You want surfaces clear. You want floors clear. If you have things sitting around the floor, you have things sitting around on countertops, and this topic usually makes my wife cringe because I feel like she feels like every surface, every end table has to have something sitting on every inch of it. This is not true. Kitchen countertops, regular appliances that you don't use, even the ones that aren't hard to stow them away. Or at least, keep the regular stuff. If you use your coffee pot every day, of course, leave that out. Toaster every day, whatever that is. But things you use once a week, once a month, twice a year, whatever it is, get those stowed away. And that's true for all surfaces. If you don't use it on a regular basis, a daily basis, stow it away. The last one is clutterless. This is just removing unwanted clutter, and that includes furniture. That's one of the tips I would actually definitely ask your agent when you bring them through is this room over furnished? Staging works. So it's been proven time and time again, there's actually a solid purpose for stagers, that staging does work, but you'll notice in homes that are professionally staged, they're not overly done. You don't need to fill, again, every single wall, every single floor space with a piece of furniture. It's important to keep clutter just overall to a degree down, including the furniture. And there are stagers, by the way, they don't just bring in all new furniture. There are stagers out there that we work with that just come in, they'll use your furniture and they'll say, hey, let's get some of this removed out, put it in temporary storage. A lot of times you can get away with putting stuff in the garage even. Garages aren't, people usually, half the time when someone looks at a garage, is like, oh, okay, it's a garage. All right, back to the house. Okay, guys I know tend to spend a little more time in the garage. I'm one of those too. The garage is important, but overall, women buy houses, it seems like, and kitchens sell houses. So it's kitchens, baths, bedrooms are usually the top priorities when you ask. So that's my 5 tips. Questions? I know you've got questions. I can see it in your eye, Vince.
Yeah, buddy, right here. So talking about like decluttering and cleaning, what about like depersonalizing? A great example is earlier this summer I walked into a house and I think there was family photos covering every inch of a wall from 1920 all the way up to today. And it was, that was one of the questions. Do we need to take all these down? I was like, yeah, you don't need to take them all down, but I would recommend most of them.
Yeah.
So depersonalizing. What about depersonalizing?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know how I stand on this, but I hear a lot of agents have made their clients like pretty much take all personal pictures off the walls. I can't tell you how much I disagree with that actually. A few family photos, again, a few, makes the home feel really personable. It feels like a family's lived there. It's really cool. In fact, a lot of times, some of my favorite sales have been are families that have lived in homes for 30 years, raised families. Maybe some have been raised to multiple generations. It's okay. Now, do you want to keep it to a limit? Yeah, if you're going up stairways in houses and you see the whole thing just lined with those photographs. Yeah, I have asked that to trim it back a little bit. And the reason is because going back to the clutterless thing, it kind of keeps things, it feels cluttery. So there's a degree of where it is, but a little bit of family stuff here and there is perfectly fine. Actually, I think it's nice.
And you talked about clutter. What about, I guess everyone, you mentioned the garage. I think one of the things that a lot of people do is they don't declutter closets and storage spaces. I think that, me personally, and you can kind of give your feedback on it. If we're walking a house and I open a closet and we get attacked by everything they just jammed in there. I mean, we all do it. Closets are the perfect hiding spot. We have a closet by our front door. It's all the kids' toys and games, and it's like so disorganized. What's your thought on closet space and like storage spaces outside of the garage?
Absolutely, yeah. It's the same thing. It's okay to have some stuff, but you do need, when you're talking about decluttering, you definitely want to take a look at your closets too. I mean, you want your people to be able to open the closet door and see inside and see actually the amount of space that there is. It's wonderful that your closet can actually hold that much. That is a selling feature. It's because storage is important for families, but you definitely don't want stuff falling out, of course, but you want to make sure that if it's a walk-in, they can walk in, or if things are in the closet and they're all on shelves, again, that kind of goes to the clean and clear. Very well organized. Just make sure it's organized. So organize everything in your house. So those are really quick things that you can do yourself without a stager or an agent. The agent's going to come in, or the stagers, if stagers recommended, and give the tips on the furniture and stuff like that. But to give a tip myself, I would say just keep it, there's just those furniture pieces that you don't really need or use. They're just there for decorative, get those out of the way, keep it open. I'll give you an example. I know a lot of homes you walk in right before you go up the stairs. It's got those, I don't know what they're called, kind of like the little, I call them little half tables. I know that's not the right name for them. Where it's just like a little bit of like memorabilia stuff. But usually those are sitting in like a hallway or something, kind of before you head up the stairs or in the entryway. Just makes that entryway just feel a little bit tighter. I just think that's stuff you could move. It depends. I've had it come in where like, well, that's really adds a nice feature. It makes it look nice. Leave it. So it's one of those things where get the advice of your agent. Your agent's going to have experience at that. And then if sometimes I've recommended the stager because I want that additional professional opinion.
Before I'm going to turn it over to Adam, because I think Adam will lead into my buyer do's and don'ts. So the other thing, like I recommend, and I didn't hear you say this, Brandon, I apologize if I missed it, is minor repairs or minor fixes. So if you have, an outlet cover that's missing, a light bulb that's out, get those fixed before we list your house. Maybe because you don't want someone walking in, and if there's an outlet cover missing, they're going to think, oh, I wonder if there's an electrical issue. Or if there's a light bulb that's out, they flip the switch on, doesn't turn anything on. They're thinking, oh, the house, there's an electrical issue because this light switch doesn't work anything. In projects, if you started a project, finish it, because you don't want someone to come in and think, oh, I wonder why there's a drywall patch right there. Well, maybe you removed a sconce or something that was there because you changed your lighting and remove it, paint it. So I think that's another huge tip when it comes to the seller side of things.
And for more than the reason to show, like, if there's an outlet missing or things like that, sometimes depending on where it's placed and stuff like that, that stuff's not seen. I would more recommend doing it because think of it this way. Agents, buyers were looking for during the inspection period, safety defects. Anything electrical or plumbing, because it's water or electric, is a safety hazard potentially. So that is something you want to make sure that is taken care of. So the little simple things, it's the bigger stuff. Should I change carpet? Should I remodel this? Should I remodel that? Those are things that I would definitely get your agent's input.
Awesome. Adam, let's talk about grants and different programs, because then I can go into the buyer side of things.
Okay, I have just a quick question for you, Brad. What about painting? As I look at your wall vents, like how do you approach that? What do you recommend people do as far as painting, not painting, or is it a case by case basis? Because I've seen many different views on that. What do you think for someone that's potentially listing their house? Should they paint or not paint, or is that something that you should go over with your agents?
If Brad's not still on, I'll take over. He might have jumped off real quick. I really think, to get the most value for your dollar, I think, if you have like a green wall like I do behind me, paint it a neutral color. Like our dining room is a burgundy color. It doesn't hurt me, but it also makes the room look a lot darker. I would recommend, for a couple $100, and if you got a Saturday afternoon, I could probably knock this room out in a day, right? And it's going to be more appealing to a potential buyer. So, depending on if you're going to spend a little bit of money, some of the things I would recommend is definitely painting, finishing minor repairs. And even if you got old shag 1950s carpet, like to recarpet a couple rooms might cost you a little bit of money, but if you're trying to get that top dollar, but if you're just trying to sell it, then I wouldn't worry about it, because that's where I'll talk about as a buyer, you can walk in and be like, all right, this is an ugly color and it's probably turned off 10 other people, but I like the room size, right? So, it could give you a little bit of a negotiating tool as a buyer. So
cool. I think that helps people that might be listening to this as far as what they should or should not do. So yeah, we'll talk about DPAs, which are down payment assistance programs. They've kind of gone, they were kind of a thing that's, during the COVID thing that I just don't think that many offers were getting accepted with that, but that's changed now. Now we're in a situation where you could definitely get an accepted offer with a down payment assistance program. And let me tell you the difference, because there's a really popular misconceptions about what they are and how they work. So I think the one, WIDA is a Wisconsin-based program, and I think for most people, they have in their head that that's somehow free money, and that's not, couldn't be further from the truth. Essentially, it's a first mortgage and a second mortgage for the down payment. So you are paying back the money. If you plan on only holding the home for maybe a year, WIDA is definitely not going to be a great idea for you, because you might be in a situation where the increase in value might not match what you have to pay back. 2 years ago to now, that's not really an issue. But if we're looking at only a 3 to 5% increase, if you're selling in a year or two, you might not cover that WIDA portion that you have not paid back. So WIDA, again, it's a first and a second mortgage, essentially, at the end of the day. They are harder. They're harder loans. You have to know that going in there. You have to write the contract appropriately. You still require some dollar concessions to cover some of the costs involved. I recommend people write like a 40 to 45 day contract. End approval is still on WIDA, so it's not like you have a first loan and then WIDA needs to approve the second portion of it. So know that. No, they're harder. There's no last minute issues that could come up. There's approval that they need to do. There's income restrictions, and it is a first and a second. Okay. Other programs that I personally like a lot more are so for instance, Milwaukee County has a down payment assistance program. And every area or county or city has different programs available. For this one, you get a $5,000 grant if you're below 80% of the area median income, which is usually like $72,000. So that's, the process is a little easier. It is truly like free money. Can get you in a situation where you're bringing little to no for the down payment. So I think specifically in different areas, you researching what those, if there's free money to be had, that's probably going to be your first start, your best bet. Again, every place has different programs, so it's impossible for me to know every program. I just know Milwaukee has one, Kenosha has a weird one, Racine has one. So you just have to look into it, make some phone calls and see if those things are available. And then like Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Freddie Mac has like a grant program where they give you $1,500 towards the cost of the loan. So that's something that's possibly available. And there's a couple other programs out there that aren't really, they're not WIDA, and one of them is actually, I think in my opinion, better than WIDA because it is really like free money. But a lot of that stuff got suspended during COVID and it's just starting to come back. The interest rate compressions, the market, really the interest rate after COVID really made it, these programs where they suspended it, they're not loaning on it. Lending in general has gotten more strict in the last like 4 months, it seems like. So those are all programs where it really truly is a case-by-case basis based on your income, where you're buying, what you're looking at. If you can, always, path of least resistance is always, if you can get money from your 401k, gifted funds from a relative or a good friend, start there. And if you can't, then we look at maybe WIDA or these other down payment assistance programs, depending on where you're looking. Does that make sense?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. So, you talked about some of these other programs like the one you guys have in Milwaukee County there. And you said, hey, call somebody. Who would you recommend they call? A lender? Or is there somewhere?
So for that program, there's a number they can actually call. So I give them a phone number. They call, they have a conversation, like a consult with those people, and they tell them, what's going on, what their income is. What's cool about the Milwaukee County one is they actually freeze that money, so they won't run out of money. Because that does happen with these down payment assistance programs for these cities and counties. They can run out of money. So that for that specific one, they actually freeze that money for that person so they don't run out of that money. That's unique and really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then I had one other question looking back at this. So when you talk about that WIDA, because like WIDA is one that everybody hears about, right? So
Right.
it's one that's pretty popular. It's out there. First and second mortgage, and the second mortgage. So let's say you get, and is it a percentage of the value of the home, or is it, what is it? The second mortgage.
It will typically cover like the 3.5% down without the closing costs.
Yeah.
And they're usually require based on especially right now with these interest rate compressions, you need to write the offer appropriately to make sure you're getting enough seller concessions to offset the cost of maybe the interest rate and the closing costs. Because you can really structure it the right way where the buyer is bringing in zero money to the closing, but it's just a way to have a conversation to make sure we're structuring it the right way when we write that offer.
Yeah. And then it's a second mortgage. Is that like amortized over 30 years, 5 years? What's that look like? Because you said if you're only going to hold a year, not the program for you.
Oh man, I don't know when it's ammed out. I think it's ammed out over 10 years, if I remember correctly, because it's been 2.5 years since I've done one. I believe it's 10 years. The payments are usually low though. They are. They're not usually high payments. I will say that. It's just be honest about how long you really truly plan on owning that home for, because you can get in a situation. I've seen a situation where that can be an issue if you are selling, because you need to come up with that money. If the value does not support the sales price plus that WIDA mortgage to pay it off, then you need to pay it or you're not selling that home. So if you really plan on moving in 1 or 2 years, be honest about what you're thinking. Is this the first home? Like you don't want to be there forever. Typically people don't hold a mortgage more than like 4.5 years. A lot of that's because of refinances, but most people move within, I think it's like 4 and 7 years. I don't know the exact stat, and I think the stat's different depending on where you are, but that's pretty good rule. So just be honest about what you're thinking about doing.
Yep. Awesome. Brad, any questions for Adam before we jump into the buyer side of things?
No, covered very well by you, of course, Vince.
That's what I'm here for, guys. So let's talk about buying. Adam talked about the borrowing part of it. The first thing is understand what your buying power is. So get with someone like Adam, understand, get pre-approved. This way we know what we're looking at. This way he can say, hey, you don't have a lot of money to put down. Vince, this client needs to get 3% in concessions or 5% in concessions based on the type of loan, right? All the loans are a little bit different on that area. So get pre-approved. And then during that time, don't overspend and start saving money. Cut out the Starbucks coffee and start brewing your coffee at home. I mean, let's be honest, those little K cups might cost you $8 or $10 for a dozen of them, but a Starbucks coffee is going to cost you $6-7, but it adds up. $35 a week versus $10 over 2 weeks.
You get the fancy coffee when you go to Starbucks, Vince.
Oh, I sure do, buddy. And of course I get the tall one too. Like if I'm going all in, I'm going all in. 1,000 calories.
And at Starbucks, that's called venti.
Whatever.
That's one.
So, as a buyer, save your money. Make sure you are, putting away all your pennies, not overspending during that process. Second thing, understand what you want, right? Like, do you really do you want a ranch style home, or are you okay with a 2-story? And then with that, understand your wants versus your needs. Your needs are, hey, you got 2 kids and you and your spouse, really, you need to have 3 bedrooms, right? You need to have a place for everyone to have their own place to sleep at night. Understand location. Is that a location that you're interested in? Does it have a school system that fits where you want to be? Does it, is it close to a major road because you're commuting 30 minutes to work? So understand location, and then understand price. Like, what can you buy with that buying power that Adam's going to give you? So understand the full aspect, but put together that make a list of your wants and needs. That is really going to help us as agents put together a search for you that is going to be best, right? That is going to check all those boxes. And then, walk houses. So after we got that search set up, call someone and be like, hey, Vince, I really want to see these 3 or 4 houses. Even if they don't check all of your boxes, we might be able to walk in the house and say, holy cow, even though they don't have this listed as a bedroom or whatever, I can use this as my office. If you intended to use a bedroom as an office, well, maybe they got a den and you didn't realize it. Well, now we can use that as your office. So don't be afraid to walk houses. Don't be afraid to go and, look at 3 or 4 houses at a time, because the more we look at, the more us as agents can understand what you really want. Because even though you said you wanted a 2-story, once you walk into that ranch style house, you're gonna be like, oh man, I like this. It gives me a little bit bigger yard. I have a little more space. I like the layout. So don't be afraid to look at something that might be a little bit outside your search. And then, when you walk that house, understand that paint can be changed, like Adam talked about. Like my green wall, if the size of this room fits your needs, then that green wall can be painted. Like it can be painted a neutral color. It does not need to be this, I don't even know what color it is. It looks more of like a I don't know, a darker green, but it's very bright. Let me tell you.
I feel like I could, if it was flat, I could putt on your wall. So it's that color green.
Yeah, exactly. It does look like a putting.
We call it green.
Green. But yeah, so remember, simple things like, paint, flooring, lighting are all pretty easy fixes when it comes to walking a house. So if the layout's there, the neighborhood's there, the size, if all of your boxes are checked, when it comes to the interior finishings, that's something you can update over time. Same thing with landscaping. Some of the things you want to make sure you focus on when you walk into the house are the structural part of the house, the hot water heater, the furnace, the layout. Is it, do you want your master bedroom being right next to the kids' bedroom, or do you prefer your master bedroom in a different part of the house? Those are things you can't really change easily. Some areas they can be, but not that easily. Then finally, work with an agent you trust, someone that's responsive and will go above and beyond what you're looking for and what you need. I mean, I've talked to numerous people over the last few months that have reached out to us, and I respond to them fairly quickly, and they're like, "Oh, thanks for getting back to me. I reached out to XYZ agent and called them twice over the weekend, still haven't heard from them. Thanks for getting back to me so quickly." So work with someone that's going to be responsive to your needs, so that we're there helping you and working for you to get the best deal and negotiate for you and get you in the house at the right price. So, those are my 5 tips. Get pre-approved, make a list, visit homes, walk as many houses as possible with an open imagination, and then work with an agent you trust. So there's my 5 of the day, guys.
Hey, Vince. So when it kind of like when I was talking about planning. So if I'm not looking to buy for probably 12 to 18 months, when do I call you?
Well, let's have the conversation today. All right, let's
why?
Well, let's start getting you out there, showing you what's available. Because let me tell you, if you're buying and renting right now, I can tell you the one thing that's gone up year after year for you, and that's your rent. If you have something to sell, you never know when you're going to come across that house that is perfect for you. Or, and we can start making that plan. We can start talking about, okay, let's look at your credit. Let's say, okay, you're at a 650. If we can get your credit score up to a 690 in the next 6 to 12 months. Now, Adam's probably smirking going, 40 points in 6 months. That's tough. But you never know. Without having someone look at your credit and pointing you in the right direction and putting together a 6 month to 18-month plan, 12 months is going to go by hell. I have a 7-year-old, and I didn't think she'd be 7 right now. Not because she jumps off things she shouldn't, but it's time goes by fast. You're going to say 6 to 12 months or 6 to 18 months, and before you know it, 18 months is going to be here, and you're going to be behind the 8 ball. So get started.
So if I call you and, you know, you and I talk and you understand why I'm in the 12 to 18 month time frame, leading up to that, what would I expect from you as a client?
Constant communication, follow up. You know, it might put you on a search engine so that you can see what's out there. You know, we'll talk about saving money, getting pre-approved, things like that. And then just constant follow-up and be in front of mind, and so that you could see, because you never know, that time frame could change for you in 6 months. You could all of a sudden have another baby on the way and be like, oh, we can't wait 12 months to pull this off. We're not going to move when, you know, my spouse is going to be due in a couple months, right? So time frames could change. So, you know, planning ahead is great, but a major purchase like this could be something you want to be front of mind on.
Awesome. Great tips, Vince.
Thanks, Mr. Brewer.
You're welcome.
Well, guys, anything else? We're at top at 9:30 here. Good conversation today. Love it. Anything else you guys want to throw out there before we cut out?
No, my voice held up. My dog fell asleep. Puppy's good. So
You're not going to show and tell, Brad?
I show and tell, but she's napping now, and just like babies, once they're napping, let them nap. So,
Nice.
maybe next week. Next week I'll just have her awake for a little show and tell. So
Sounds good. All right, guys. Thanks for your time today. We'll see everyone next week.
Thank you.
bye, guys.
Hey, Brad, are you staying on?
Yeah, I can stay on.
Okay. Do you want to do our call right now? Did you see my message? Unrecord.